get going for this evening. Welcome to the Historical Commission meeting for the Heritage Conservation District, April 15, 2024. Reminder, if you haven't signed in, if you can sign in over there on the table. Also, a point of order on the agenda, 303 West King Street. Item number 6 on the agenda has withdrawn, so that it's not on the agenda in case anybody was here for that. And a reminder for anybody online, we are live streaming, but we're not going to take questions or comments via the online portal. So with that said, we will get started. Item number 1 on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the March 18th meeting, 2024. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second? John, thank you. Any discussion? Hearing all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All right, motion carries. Item number 2 is the first applicant on the agenda tonight, 725 North Duke Street. If they want to come forward here, you're welcome to sit at the table here. I think if you can push the button on those mics and turn them on, that might work okay. Yep. And then Suzanne, you're flipping through. Okay. If you want to introduce yourselves and then introduce the project and take us through your presentation this evening.
Sure. You guys hear us okay?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having us tonight. My name's Ted Worrell.
I'm Rich Santilari.
We're thrilled to be here talking about 725 North Duke Street, the rear addition. Suzanne, if you want to slip through. So, real quick, we just put together a simple presentation to kind of walk through the project and talk more about the materials and our intent for the garage here. So who we are, Rich and I started 2 companies, Best Built and Chester County Contracting. It's a construction and residential development business. We've been in business since 2017, both from Pennsylvania, Penn State, and Williamson Trade School as well. So, the aforementioned building. This project was kind of created based on an idea to reuse a otherwise dilapidated garage. It presently has a green roof, not by design, but because there's plants growing out of it. It is not, the roof itself is not sound, but upon initial investigation, we found that there was water, sewer, and at one point it was used as an apartment, God knows when. So it kind of spawned the idea, can we turn this into usable space? So our intent is at present to take this from a 1-car to a 2-car garage and to put 2 studio apartments above that. We really want to be able to have the existing brick, shown as is, and then use new construction materials for the remainder. Go ahead. Sure. I'm battling this cold as well, so forgive my my voice. So here's our rough plans. Basically, you can see it's 3 stories. The first story be brick with 2-car garage. Second and third story vinyl siding. Vinyl windows. We have all the material specs with us and in the presentation as well. The 2 windows you see on your left elevation, those are existing, and the rear fire escape would be new. So there's really any new impervious coverage. It's primarily using what's there, building on top. The walls of the garage are strong. We've inspected them and kind of gone through that. So we plan on leaving that and just building on top. Here's the footprint of the studios. We were just shy of having 1 bedroom based on the habitable square footage, but it's just not worth expanding beyond that. So just a quick look, but they're nice sized studio apartments. Plenty of light coming in from the front windows. There's rear windows as well. So this is the view. So on the right-hand side, we removed the very old and dilapidated vinyl siding. That's where you see garage. That's what's in white. So that's an older image. But this is from the corner of East Clay and North Cherry Street. The buildings to your left, as you can see, are a mix of brick, vinyl siding. There is some stone. But on East Clay Street, those buildings are identical going all the way down the street. So what we're kind of proposing, we think matches pretty well with the existing streetscape. And the big magnolia tree there, we might have to do some trimming, but that, for all intents and purposes, is going to stay. It's kind of a nice screening when you're coming the opposite direction from the hospital. You want to add anything? Or?
Well, in terms of, do you want to go to the next slide?
Yeah,
for,
that's fine.
There we go. Yeah, here's some more streetscapes. We do have a picture of the building, the rest of the building on North Duke Street. It's a 4-unit currently, and the back of that also has brick with vinyl siding above it.
And then, across the street is another view of that same building. If you follow the arrows, that's pointing to where the garage currently sits. Okay. And so material detail, pretty straightforward. Certainty, Main Street, single lap, 8-inch white. I used to work for Certainty, so we got to get that plug in there. We plan to use northeast windows. It's 12 grid with grills, double hung new construction, standard window, and then the garage door is this Wayne Dalton steel insulated white garage door. There will be a divider in the garage so that each one has a separate bay, completely separate from the other. One more, Suzanne. And then, in terms of roofing, just your standard EPDM roofing system. That's on the existing building as well, on the main building. And then for the rear fire escape, Trex, we were picking colors tonight, but beach dune is what they have. It's kind of a basic option. And then railing will be the white balusters, and just a classic look that hopefully we're not doing maintenance on, being composite. Okay, that's really it. We've got some additional elevations and things in here, but that's the gist of our presentation. So I'm happy to get any feedback or questions or comments.
Okay, thank you. It's a good presentation. Anybody have any comments or questions on the design?
Oh,
We
did I
do,
include
yeah.
that?
Yeah, that's on there. It should be on slide, I think 2 or 3. Maybe. Right there.
That's a 2-car garage now?
Yes. Yeah. Well, no, I'm sorry. It's a 1-car garage now. We're going to be adding the second bay, so splitting it to 2 separate bays.
It has the dimension of a 2-car garage though, but it only has 1 bay.
You're going to put 2 garage doors on the same footprint.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So it looks like in your elevation, you had a brick pier in the center between the 2 new openings.
Yes.
You're going to use salvage brick for that pier?
Yeah, I think that's probably what we were, to match it. We didn't want the color to really differentiate too much.
And it doesn't really make a difference is that I'm a little bit confused on the apartments. Is it one on each floor, or is there a?
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
And you kept calling the stairs the fire escape, but there's not a way to get in from outside or inside, is there?
There's not-
No, the only means of egress is through the stairs that's
Yeah.
outside.
That's
The
you're right.
exterior stairs,
That's probably
correct.
So that's the stair.
better statement. Yeah, better
Mhm.
staircase.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, it appears to be a code compliant stair. It's not a fire escape.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. Other thoughts or?
And it's nice that you have kind of that extended landing on each level so that the tenants will have deck and
Yeah.
some outside space.
Yeah.
I don't have any other questions. It's a nice project.
Any comments, questions from the public? Okay. Hearing none, does anybody have any final comments, or would somebody like to make a motion for approval?
Don't jump at once. I'll make a motion. Mr. Chairman, I recommend that City Council approve the certificate of appropriateness for the proposed new construction on the rear parcel of 725 North Duke Street to construct 2 new upper-level floors to contain apartments above an existing 1-story brick garage facing North Cherry Street per the submitted architectural plans and materials. This work meets the Secretary of Interior standards numbers 1 and 9, and the design standards.
Thank you. Is there a second? All right, thank you. Any discussion or amendments? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, motion carries.
Ted, they are a recommending body only, so their recommendation has to go on to city council for the final vote. Because it does not involve demolition, it can go next week. City council generally meets on a Tuesday, but it's moved to Wednesday because of the primary, but I will put that all in writing to you tomorrow.
Okay. Is that something we go to as well, or?
You don't absolutely have to attend.
Okay.
It's a public meeting, you're welcome to be there in case there's questions.
Sounds good.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks a
Thank you,
lot.
everyone. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, the next item on the agenda, 430 North Water Street.
I found a report, so we can make it work. Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Your response told me what I needed to know, so.
All right, when you're set up, if you want to introduce yourself and then just go through the project then.
You bet, just give us a second here. All right, good evening. I'm Nicole Seufert, 430 North Water Street.
Justin Seufert, husband to this beautiful woman.
Keith Patricic, Dutch Quality Contractors.
So, good afternoon, everybody. We have lived at 430 North Water Street. We purchased the home in 2007 from my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law, my father-in-law originally acquired these properties from the city. They were condemned homes. They bought them in 2000. Worked with the city through a rehabilitation agreement through the Reinvestment Board in order to bring that property up to livable standards. So the property's been in our family since 2000. Since then, my husband and I have raised 2 kids within the house. We've done a ton of interior renovations. Our backyard has been, new life and beautiful. But the front of our house now needs some serious attention. The front, the roof, the things that you don't want to spend the money on, right? So, interesting enough, since the houses were condemned in 2000, it is 2 houses. On the outside, it looks like 2 houses. On the interior space, it's 1 combined home. The operable door is 432 North Water Street. So as we look at what we're considering doing to the house, the goal is to unite the front facades. Currently, there is 2 doors, 2 stoops. We are talking about eliminating both of those stoops and extending the landing to cover a longer stretch across the front of the 2 houses. The front facades of the houses pose a little bit of a challenge. One of them is currently in a formstone material, and the other one is in a brick facade state. And here I can scroll down so you can kind of see them. Jokingly, or for a little while, we used to take it as a compliment when people walk in and be like, oh, I wasn't expecting this. But now as we really think about that comment, it's a pretty good knock to the front exterior, and it just needs some love. So there's really no way to unite these homes to make them look like one continuous front with the materials that we have. So what we're proposing is the elimination of the door at 430 North Water Street. That would be replaced with a window. As I said, that landing would cross both of those 2 homes, and then we would put a board and batten vertical siding across the 2 front facades. Our neighborhood is a little different than some, right? It's not your traditional neighborhood. It's mixed use. There's commercial components to the rear of us. Linear Park is right behind us in the backyard. Across the street is Eastern Mennonite Missions. And you can see that there's all types of different materials. So EMM has a split-face block. Along our block, there's stone, there's brick, there's siding, all types of different materials. So the unique landscape of our house, I mean, what we're really trying to do is enhance the facade so we have a more pleasant, street appeal, really, for the entire neighborhood. North Water Street is also slated to be a pedestrian boulevard or have some form of greenway to it long-term within the city comp plan. So I think this renovation would only help support and enhance that pedestrian aesthetic that they're looking for. So siding, I know, is not a favorable material used within the city. However, I wanted to let you know that siding is no stranger to our neighborhood. Our neighbor, where we are right now, is that red block along North Water Street. And we just took a walk the one day and took a bunch of pictures of all the siding within a really close proximity of our neighborhood. This isn't even all of them, but this is just some, just to show you that this material is not a stranger to our little hood here. So we are proposing a board and batten siding, and I'm going to ask Keith. Keith is our partner from Dutch Quality Contractors. He's going to help us out with the renovations that we have, and he'll give you a little bit of explanation on the materials that we'll be using.
Thank you, Nicole. So as she said, board and batten is what we're proposing for this project. It would be an all-side vinyl board and batten, 7-inch board with batten, just coming through the city. Both the Conservation District and even Old Town both have board and batten facades. Obviously, the materials vary. Old Town is wood. King Street in the Conservation District, I did see a building with vinyl there. So it's not any stranger, as Nicole said, as far as siding goes. Certainly much more attractive than your, double D4 Dutch lap siding. Certainly not anything that we're proposing there. But happy to answer any questions you might have on that. I do have some pictures. I'm not quite as well prepared as Nicole with the PowerPoint, but if you want to see what the product looks like, I can certainly pass around a piece, show you some projects that we've done recently so you can get a feel for what that actually looks like.
Is this the look that your vertical board batten, is that basically what's here, what you're looking to do?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to achieve. Coloring, we're not certain what color we're going to do yet. I'm not sure how relevant that is for today. I do have, in my own little artistic abilities here, if you don't judge me, I will show you what I sort of anticipate this looking on the front of our house. But that can give you, this is not to scale, this is not architecturally drawn, this is me taking Photoshop and Illustrator in a picture and trying to make a visual representation of what we're trying to achieve here. But as you can see here, this really does unite those two fronts and make them look like one unified house, which is what the goal is.
If I could just add to something Nicole said earlier, the form stone on, I believe it's 432.
Correct.
At one point, that was removed to see what was underneath there when repairs were done. And unfortunately, the brick facade underneath was in a state of deterioration. And so most likely that's why the form stone was put on in the first place. So removing that to expose the brick and try to fix that to match, I suppose it would be possible, but it would be quite the endeavor.
Thank you. Good point. Anything you want to add?
I guess go back to that picture of our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Because we do live in a kind of a different, there's 9 houses on our block that are residential. That's it. You're looking at pretty much the entirety of our whole block. I'm not sure if any of you guys are familiar with it. You get up there, it's a lot of parking lots. Business, you got Snavely and Dosh, EMM, and they're just big, brick and block warehouses. And then our block, everything's kind of different. It's not like the last one we saw, we're on Cherry Street, where every house was the same style, same architecture. It's very beautiful. But yeah, that's it's just the one side of residential homes up Water Street. Then everything around it is,
Yeah. So this, if you look here, I think what Justin's saying, I was trying to focus on looking for a picture too. So if I missed some of it, correct me. But if you look down the street, Snavely and Dosh is to the north or west,
It'd be the south.
the southeast of our home. And then at the end of the block is where Tom Panessa's building is. And you'll also see a vertical siding component on that building. And my apologies for not having a closer up picture to showcase that for you. Also right around the corner on Lemon Street. Interestingly enough, as we think about the neighborhood and the context of our neighborhood, those little homes on Lemon Street, right off of, what is that, Arch? Can't think of that alley. Arch.
It's between Water and,
Yeah. That's a pocket neighborhood. Or I don't know if it's actually a definition of a pocket neighborhood, but the rear of the homes actually face the streetscape. So that streetscape is totally lost because the front facades of those houses are in the interior, which creates a unique neighborhood in that particular area. But all that being said it really just showcases the differences of buildings and housing types within our particular area.
mixed use.
What are you planning on doing at the corner? Is the vinyl stopping on the corner, you're leaving the brick side?
Yeah, brick
Yeah.
side would
Long
be,
side?
yeah, painted to match.
Long-term goal,
Whatever.
that brick will be grouted and will
It'll be pointed.
pointed, whatever you do
Pointed.
to it. And then the long-term goal is to connect with the city and their art, whoever does the art within the city. I know that there's a position there for it. And explore mural options, because as you can see, it's like a
Good wall.
humongous wall
Yeah.
with 2 parking lots there, and it is just screaming for artwork. So we don't want to cover that with a vertical siding. That'll maintain brick, pending what that finish would be from an art installation or mural standpoint. We may have to stucco over that brick, but I will let that up to when that time comes. That's not up on the docket for tonight.
Maybe you said this already, but are these one combined deed now?
Yes, the address of the home is 430 North Water Street.
Oh, 432.
Well, questions or comments?
Is there a dormer over 432 right now?
Uh,
The
The- Yeah, we were actually just,
We're not
Oh.
really sure.
what's behind that formstone?
Above the floor.
Yeah.
You're gonna put one there, it's like,
I want to, but we're not sure that we can,
there's not one there.
no, I want to take ideally what I'd love to do is take the stained glass that's above the 432 door and move that onto the 430 door and move that above the 432 door. The 432 door would be the permanent door, entry and exit way of our house. The 430 door will become a window.
Yeah.
So there might be a transom there.
It looks like there are transoms over the other houses in the row, so it's likely that cut the formstone away, the transom's there.
If I could just make a mention, since you mentioned a dormer, if you look at the neighboring house, they do have horizontal siding on the dormer. Part of our project is to put the vertical board and batten up on the dormer and replace the roof shingles, which currently are the side. So,
Yeah. So you're taking the formstone off? Or you
No,
over that?
we would leave it on, we'd lath over it. Basically, we would lath out the whole front facade of the house and then attach the board and batten.
You said you explored removing the formstone. Did you just kind of take a peek and then
Pretty much, yeah.
further, or did you actually
Yeah.
price?
I mean, there was some coming off a couple years back, so we pulled off the bigger chunk, looked underneath, and
If
thought,
you,
well,
specifically, if you would look at the area right here, I don't know how clear your screens are, the one that we're looking at right now. It looks pretty blurry to me, but you can see right there, that's where the formstone was pulled off, so we could see the brick underneath it, and the brick's pretty soft.
this is old brick. I
And
mean,
then
it's
attach the formstone?
old brick.
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did not.
One could make the argument that if the brick is deteriorating under the formstone, the better course of action is to remove the formstone and repair it than to put another layer or if
I mean, I wouldn't say
Well,
deteriorating.
Yeah, deteriorating
That's
is
not the
my
word.
form of word. That's
Yeah.
like not a technical term. I'm sorry
Yeah.
about that. Please, like, there's, the brick is just not nice underneath it.
Yeah,
It
that's
looks
a
like
better
the-
way to
Yeah, the
describe
brick
it.
on, I say the brick on the other side of the house that's fully exposed is deteriorating too. So that in itself is like fully intact and,
Well, it's
I
It's
mean,
not deterioriting, it's old.
yeah,
it's aging and
aging.
it looks
It's not in the
bad
best,
to
yeah, it's
some
not in the best
people.
shape, right.
So,
I love it. I think it looks great. but
It's the soft brick of Lancaster, and most likely at some point, somebody patched it, used some sort of inappropriate material for the mortar. It was too hard, it got water in there, it froze. What gives away first? The face of the brick, it cracks out. The mortar needs repointing. Doesn't necessarily mean it's not structurally sound, it's just
well,
not something you want to look at.
that's not the worst-looking brick facade we've seen.
Well, yeah, and I would just like to correct, there's no brick faces coming off. There's nothing to that degree. It's just this side is, 1/8 pointed, that real old school, tiny, tiny point joint. So it does. People have done things to it over the years and it looks crappy.
But you didn't get a cost estimate to remove the formstone and repoint that side of the house?
I don't know,
No.
I don't think that we would
No,
want to do that
wanna do
because of the
that.
way that the formstone is placed. If we remove that formstone and all the brick looks really terrible underneath it, then we have to re-brick the house. And I'm not sure I
We
want to
gotta
even
repoint
venture
the
down that,
house.
right? Or repoint
We'd
the
have to
house.
repoint the house, yeah.
Yeah. Re-brick it.
Which,
The problem, I'm sure you've seen Suzanne's review of your application.
Yeah, we spoke on the phone together and she sent, yes,
oh, yeah,
correct.
yeah. I know you guys don't love
Yep.
siding.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Suzanne's review is that this is an inappropriate intervention, and that it violates not one, not two, not three, but 4 of the Secretary of Interior standards.
Can you
The what?
elaborate on those a little bit in great, well, hold on one second. Please let me get my notebook and then I'll
Yeah.
ask if you can elaborate on
The
it.
what was the word? The what standards?
The Secretary of Interior standards.
Okay.
The Historical Commission uses 2 guidelines.
Yep, gotcha.
to,
I just couldn't hear you.
Kind of guide its review.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I had my microphone off. One of which is the City of Lancaster's own design guidelines,
Uh-huh.
and the second one is the Secretary of Interior Standards,
Yep.
which is a federal guideline designed for
Sure.
historic rehabilitation for deliberative bodies like ours. There are four specific standards that this proposal violates. The one is standard number 2, which states the historic character of a property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alterations of features and spaces that characterize a property shall be avoided. So the idea that you want to change the house from looking like 2-row houses to a single house is an alteration of the features and spaces that characterize the property.
I'm sorry,
That's the first one.
Mr. Funk, I apologize. One second. Suzanne, I'm not sure what you just handed me.
Those are the standards that he cited.
Is this relevant to our particular property or are these in general?
Those are the federal standards.
Those are all the standards. I'm going through the 4 in particular that this proposal violates.
Okay, now that I'm on the same page with you, you are reviewing what, number 2?
So standard number 2
Gotcha.
is the first one. Standard number 3 states each property shall be recognized as a physical record of its time, place, and use. Changes that create a false sense of historical development, such as adding conjectural features or architectural elements from other buildings, shall not be undertaken. Standard number 5 states distinctive features, finishes, and construction techniques or examples of craftsmanship that characterize the property shall be preserved. And standard number 9 says, in part, that exterior alterations shall not destroy the historic materials that characterize the property. And unfortunately, you've already described how the formstone may have done some damage to
I would like to retract the word damaged. I am not a technical person, so please don't, like, when I say, I think the front facade of my house is like in a state of disrepair, essentially. So if I had, like, so this is the way to make it better.
it's not.
Is it structurally, is the structural integrity of the buildings in jeopardy or no, that's not an issue.
No,
It's literally just like, I just don't like it.
Let me,
The application itself damages the building.
Yeah,
So
let
when you take it off of the
Sure.
brick, it's gonna damage
We're-
the.
We're not taking it off.
Right,
I'm
yeah.
gonna say that putting the siding on will do the same thing.
Oh,
to the
sure.
other side. So you're
Right.
actually.
that's the point I was trying to make.
Makes sense.
That in
Sure.
the process of applying the formstone, they had to nail wired mesh
Right.
onto the face of the building. And the process of nailing into the building
Yep.
did some damage.
Correct.
You're proposing to do it again, only with a different material. You know, the vinyl siding is gonna have to be installed over some kind of furring.
Right.
Will have to be nailed into the brick, which can damage the brick. I would say, well, I wouldn't say irreparably damaged, but it would be a very expensive undertaking to fix in the future if some future owner decided to take the siding off. The other thing I take issue with is.
We have no anticipation of
Sure.
selling the property
We're
either,
never
ever. This is like
We'll
we're
see.
staying there until we die.
Right, but the house will be there long after.
Absolutely.
The other issue I take issue with is the vertical board and batten siding, which Suzanne described in her review, that is really not an appropriate material and it's the style of siding for the city. It's typically not used on a street-facing facade. It really does have, more commonly, it's used as siding on an agricultural building or an outbuilding.
Okay. I mean, there's a lot of it in the city.
Yeah.
I mean,
No
there
offense,
are
but there's-
outbuildings in the city, but there
I mean-
aren't that many that board and batten siding on the street-facing.
Got any of those pictures of the one from right down the street?
Walnut and Concord.
And I would just say, it's kind of indicative of an unfortunate trend over the last couple of years of trying to create, I want to say, for want of a better term, an urban farmhouse. There's that kind of rural look that's become very popular, that just seems to be popping up everywhere. And honestly, I'm not criticizing the drawing that you presented, but it makes the house look like a barn.
Oh, I mean, you can criticize drawing all you want. That's probably not going to be the outcome of it. It
That's a
was
good
just
point.
to give an idea
That's
of what
a
it
good
looks
point.
like,
Yeah,
but
I don't think,
sure.
I'm not inclined to recommend approval of any kind of siding on this house. I think there are other ways to improve the facade of the house without.
So what would you recommend?
I would recommend getting a cost estimate to remove the formstone and repoint the brick. If that is prohibitively expensive, you could paint the entire facade, the brick side and the formstone side would be.
So paint, it's my understanding that, I mean, brick and formstone are a porous material, so they need to breathe.
Right.
Painting over top of that only, like, then that now you're sealing it in so it no longer can breathe, which then deteriorates it quicker.
Sealing it.
From a long-term,
There are,
Stone, I would argue, is not permeable, but the brick side, you could use a mineral-based paint, and that is breathable.
there are appropriate paints.
Sure.
for painting brick. There are thousands of painted brick buildings in the city.
right,
There are, I mean, my house
yeah,
included,
Yeah.
that's painted, and the brick is peeling because the wrong paint was used.
Mm-hmm.
So last summer I had the front of my house painted. I've yet to make my way around the back
sure.
to deal with, the
Sure.
issues there, but.
So I guess also,
I think that paint would be the least destructive thing you could
sure.
do to improve the look of the house.
So the painting of the front house is still not going to not unite the two facades in the way that we really want to. I mean, I would say, like, just take one step back here, because this is not your traditional house. This is not a traditional neighborhood. This is not your beautiful streetscapes and your brownstones along Walnut Street. I'm not knocking my neighborhood because I love it, and like I said, I have no plans of moving. But this is a mixed-use development. There is different materials all over the place. There's a house a couple of doors up that actually uses a vertical vinyl siding. So the materials are not unfamiliar to our area. So, and then here's what I'll also say, is where I'll ask for a little grace on this is, or as you consider your decisions here, is the houses were condemned houses that our family bought. We tried to make them as best we could. You know, we brought new life into them. We renovated the interiors of them. You know, we did our due diligence, and I think that we tried the best that we could to make these two houses our home, essentially. I understand that siding maybe is not the most desirable outcome for it, but for what we're trying to achieve, that's really the only way that we can unite those two houses, so it does represent one unified front facade in an economical way. I mean, there's, from a historic, I wish I had some pictures of some of these houses that I saw, but from a historic element of it, there's no like unique or ornate details on the homes. I mean, they're fairly standard. You can see.
Their character. Homes that were built for the coal and lumber yard. And there is, even with the different materials and different, there is unity in their size and their form, and you can tell by looking at them.
Sure.
And
Yeah, that's a good point.
Another house on your same block further north, that's a double house?
No, our house is the only house that has the two houses, or that has the two front facades with the,
With the large door had a store inside.
There was somewhere on Walnut,
The end of your block.
yeah, there's somewhere on Water Street where there's
The top end where it has.
It's not a
no, I don't
It's
know.
not a double house, yeah.
This one, I don't.
Oh,
think
the one that had the
yeah.
door with the window, like,
No, that's what
Yeah.
I was talking about, but
it's the one right next,
Yeah, I don't think I have a
Over.
picture of it. I know,
there's the double house.
I thought that there was a house on
no.
North Water Street where it had been two homes made into one, and the second door, the unused door, was just a full glass door.
So
No.
that could potentially have.
That
been
is the one at the end, but that wasn't
444.
two houses. That was,
Yeah, it was never two
I
houses.
don't know what it was, because they have two double doors.
There are other examples in the city where two houses
Correct.
have been combined into one home. There's one on West Chestnut Street across from St.
Did those individuals buy the were they condemned properties that they had rehabilitated? I mean, that's where I just asked for some grace here, because we really did, I mean, this is our home, this is our heart. We're not leaving, but we just.
Do you have any, could we get it, if somebody knows of other two houses that are now one houses, could somebody email us those addresses so we could,
I can find them.
so we could look to,
There's one on West Chestnut Street across the street from St. John's. There's another one in Old Town.
Yeah.
oh, the one right on the alley?
And in.
They did a couple
yeah,
years
it's
ago.
right- Yeah, it's on the
Okay.
corner of,
Yeah, yeah.
Concord
Yeah.
and West Chestnut Street.
What's the
Okay.
front facades of those?
I don't know.
There's another-
I just remember when
there's
they-
another-
They still look.
I remember when they did it.
Another pair of
Because-
houses that are in actuality a single home inside, on,
It's
Uh,
Washington, I think.
I don't want to pull the forms down.
it's on Vine Street.
I don't want to go into
Yeah,
that.
it's on East Vine. I think it kind of.
Right around the corner.
It faces the little triangular
Yeah.
park.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I'm talking about another one, up around
Okay.
Hayward, Sherwood.
Okay, on Washington
Yeah,
Street.
on Washington.
Yeah, there are a number of them, and I think we can find examples of them where it's basically, it's
Yeah,
it's a single home inside, but you're still retaining the historic
Yeah.
character and the
yeah.
historic patterns
I get
and
it.
rhythms of two houses.
Yeah. Maybe if somebody could just
Point Suzanne.
email us some of those addresses or something so we could look at those for,
We can find the.
further inspiration. I wasn't aware of, there were so many
Just,
places.
Trying to convert a door into a window and then covering everything over with a new material is just an inappropriate intervention in these.
So how does, so there is a house, and this is maybe out of just curiosity then, how do we have so many houses in the city that have siding on them and they are in the exact same district and neighborhood that we are? And also, if Keith, may I have those pictures that you have about the historic district and the board and batten siding? I'd like to share those with the board.
Well, some of them may have been installed before the historic conservation district was created.
So I don't know, we only have one page of this, I don't have it here with you, but maybe that's the.
Those are the last, that's 3 and 4. So A, B, C, and D are the 4 examples, just driving through the city. Yep.
Historic district. So in C and D, you'll see that that's actually a historic district, it's not the
Right.
Heritage Conservation
Right.
Board.
That's-
There's 2 houses, in there that use a vertical board and gas society, so
We went through that, I'm gonna bring that up.
That's, it's construction.
So,
They had an
Yeah,
ordinance
that's
in
new
2014
construction.
That's Old Town,
Those
right?
Garages in Old Town.
Shouldn't be on there.
That-
probably.
You know,
That
the
were
rules
built
are-
during the rehabilitation of
It's also,
Old
it's an
Town.
outbuilding, it's not a primary.
It's erroneous.
It's a primary street. You know, they're different, you know.
well, but we're not on a primary street either, I mean, we're off kind of the beaten path, right?
Public
So,
street.
we are on a public street, right, but we're not on your major thoroughways through the city. So, I'd just like you to reconsider, please, because it is,
Can I,
Well, I made my
Yeah, go ahead.
I just have a question
evaluation
for
pretty
Steve.
clear.
Yeah.
or anyone else, for those other examples of 2 units, did they retain both doors,
Yes.
front doors?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did they change the one door to just all glass, so it's not a door?
Yeah, I think the one on Chestnut Street may have done that. And the one on East Vine Street is a little more subtle. You really can't tell which, you know, only
Yeah.
one door is functional. The only difference, and there are 2
Yeah.
doors, 2 stoops.
Yep.
The only difference is one door doesn't have any hardware.
So could we remove that door and make it a full glass panel with keeping everything the
well,
same? Just
that's
now it
not
would
there,
be,
they don't need to approve that, so
it would
that's
be
irrelevant.
glass.
Yeah, that's
Well,
irrelevant.
Well, he just said you can't put a window in there.
It's a single light glass door.
We can replace it
Oh,
with whatever
oh,
we want. That
gotcha.
doesn't have to go through them. It's
Gotcha.
only the siding that needs to be done through this, so,
By us.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Suzanne, in Suzanne's review said like replacing the windows doesn't get reviewed,
Right.
so.
Yeah, we talked about the landing and the windows and whatever else. The siding material was the only thing that had to come in front of the board.
Converting a door into a window and then covering everything with siding are the 2 major issues with the Historical Commission.
And to answer your question, those examples that you brought from Old Town, that was done in the 70s and early 80s. That was before the Heritage Conservation District was built, or
Okay.
was made.
That makes sense.
So, I'm sorry, I was under the impression that we were able to change that door to a window without any issues. That would go through building code, correct? Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that was still the same.
There are comments or similar comments or questions up here, just so we can hear everybody?
I don't want to put a glass door there
Or-
in the window.
Same thing.
Do you have anything new or different?
Can you text Kai and tell her that I'm in a meeting and leave me alone?
Why is she calling?
Okay.
3 times.
Yeah, and I think that those are the concerns, covering over the brick, the vertical siding, going across two units, or what used to be 2 units, in a row of 9, changes everything there. So I think those are the overarching concerns that were mentioned. Yeah, so we can vote on it. We can vote to table it if you guys want to consider what your options are, which would give you,
No, I would say just go ahead and vote, because if you're going to decline the siding, then we need to rethink what we're going to do. So regardless, if we can't do the siding and you decline the siding, then the next step,
Yeah, it's like, well,
we don't need to come back to you for paint, we don't need to come back to you for other things. So I think let's just go through the motion right now and figure out what that answer is, and then we'll go from there.
And just to be clear on this, y'all don't like siding. It's not just because it's horizontal, or,
Not on the brick.
okay.
Right.
yeah.
So if it was running a different direction, it would still be,
Yeah,
Exit siding on flat.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
yeah, no problem.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, if you were
Okay.
building,
Okay.
if you were building new here, you know, vinyl siding would, I mean, we just recommended approval, new construction with vinyl siding.
Where was that at?
That was on Cherry Street. the application just before you.
Oh,
right, right,
okay,
right.
yeah, sure.
Gotcha.
So, well, and that's,
Because
I
it
mean,
matches everything that,
But we're dealing with historic,
Yeah.
with historic.
oh, just because
Right.
it's new? Oh, okay.
I think Suzanne said these houses were built in like 1865. You know, it's really something, you need to like.
I totally
Yeah,
get that,
respect
but, and I
Do
do
we get like a
respect that.
plaque and some grants every year for, upholding?
I mean,
the-
can we go, like, I mean, if we want to think about the historic, aspect of the city, there's like a lot of things that have been changed over the years. Some of our most like historic structures have been tore down and are sadly ungone. I just don't look at the front facade of these houses as like a historic piece that really has any aesthetic value to it. I do think that the siding would really, I know it's not what you like, but it
And
will really
that's why
make
we're
the
here, to
neighborhood
make
look
sure
better.
that some of this stuff is maintained, and we have those rules that we've gone through, that Steve went through. And, yeah, I mean, we have to abide by those and recommend.
It's unfortunate you just said that you don't think the front of your house has any aesthetic value. Right?
I mean, look at it. It needs love.
I mean, it does. It's a beautiful house, but it's not like ornate
Right. There's no
trim
detail
work
to it.
and, beautiful front porch with,
Right.
details.
understood.
It's beautiful. We love it.
So if both-
Characteristic of workforce housing of the mid-19th century.
If both of the houses had formstone on them, would you reconsider the siding option then?
It doesn't matter. Because
Okay.
it's not what we're looking at right now.
Just a question, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
You should avoid that.
What?
Put it on formstone?
Oh, yeah.
Should have to answer.
Oh, listen, I wish the
Agreed.
formstone wasn't there. I totally agree with you.
Agreed.
That formstone has kept me
Yeah.
up night after night after
yeah.
night. So I've lost a lot of sleep thinking about that formstone.
That's kind of one of the main problems
Yeah.
with everything here is the formstone. I mean,
If you're having issues with the brick below, you probably have issues with the formstone above.
Again, issues. I'm not a contractor, okay? Like, I would tell
I
you
am,
my
but
whole house is
yeah,
gonna fall
don't-
down, and it's not. The
saying.
structural integrity of the house is sound.
Right.
I just think it's dilapidated because it needs some love
just
and
looks
repair.
bad.
So poor choice of words on my end, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
We apologize. Those standards bind us. They tie our hands. So it's not like we can.
It's not just we don't like vinyl.
Oh, sure.
Get it?
Yeah.
Design is
I see.
beautiful.
Beautiful.
And
I
it's
see it.
really, really
Yeah.
beautiful. And this is just a different.
I get it.
So, in interest to move on, is there somebody that would like to make a motion at the
Just
commission level?
if I could clarify real quick, the material's not in question. It's the actual siding covering the brick. So if we were to do a fiber cement or something else, like a hardy board vertical lap siding, that would also
Well,
be.
vertical is also an issue, I think was voiced yeah.
I mean, it's
It's
the
uncommon.
fact that applying any kind of siding over brick.
Sure.
Damages the brick.
Poking into the brick is the issue.
Right.
Correct.
But
Gotcha.
I'm not sure I'm understanding what you were alluding to.
Just something that isn't vinyl.
Material, that's the question. It's,
Gotcha.
you can't cover the brick.
Okay.
It's any kind of material that recovers.
Going into
All right.
that existing
So would
material.
you like to
that's been
make a
there.
motion
Yeah, I get it. Makes
this
sense.
evening? Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that City Council deny a certificate of appropriateness for the new construction, the new construction request, based on a failure to meet the following criteria or standard of interiors, Secretary of Interior standards, and that would be 2, 3, 5, and 9.
is there a second? All right, any discussion?
Just a quick question regarding the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation. How old is that document and when is it updated?
It's a federal document from the National Park Service.
So do you know how, okay, never mind, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I was just curious. That was just curiosity. Thank you.
I think there was just a webinar about updates in the last couple months.
So there's a motion and a second. All in favor of the recommendation to denial, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Which is May 6th, and that's where they're going to discuss it with you. I will send you the
Gavin, we're just a recommending body.
Right.
They don't always take our recommendations, unfortunately. So, you have a right to make an argument to city council.
Thank you.
Item number 4 on the agenda is 232 North Prince Street. If applicant wants to come forward for that one. This was, we reviewed a conceptual of this on March 20th, 2023.
Has it really been the whole year? Wow.
All right, the end.
When you're hooked up and ready, you're welcome to introduce yourselves again and present.
Dana, this probably doesn't need to be said because you're presenting tonight, but because we've seen this before, you can probably skip ahead.
What I was going to say was how much do you all remember a year ago? I'm
Yeah.
going to move through how we got to the design we had preliminarily.
I think that's fine, yeah.
I don't think we need to see all the Sanborn maps.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
can go through that as quickly as you like.
Yeah, and if you want to then get to the current design and the updates and stuff.
You could just focus on kind of what's changed since
Yeah.
last year, so.
We can certainly do that. So let me sit through it. Only
Thanks. There is one image that I thought that came to light after we met the last time. I think it was either Compliments of Suzanne or Facebook. And it was just an image that we did not have before. And I think what it really spoke to for me was the discussion we were having about the storefront and maybe what the storefront should be as opposed to what it was presented initially. And I think this just starts to show that more modern evolution of what the storefront probably should be. And as we move into the revised drawings, you will see that revision. We took that to heart, obviously. And the only reason I'm going to stop on this is because it does show, we talked about a fire. There was a 4.5-story building on the back side of this property along Water Street. This is a photo from the 30s that showed that fire. That also came up subsequent to our last meeting. So, all right. Interestingly about this slide, since we last met, I mean, we have 202 North Queen Street that's going in, which is like right there at number 2. So, as one of the justifications for the size of this particular project, we were obviously investigating other buildings in the neighborhood, and that will be a 12-story building. So even taller than what's proposed here, just a block and so away. One of the questions or one of the requests that the committee had was, hey, can we see both sides of Prince Street? I know that says Water Street, but it really is Prince Street. So those are the two elevations of Prince Street. And again, just to give you context of the adjacent buildings. Same is true for water. We ran the Water Street side that we had not shown you previously, just as a point of reference for the board. And again, we did that same study where we were trying to realize the different fabric of that streetscape and how those different widths complemented one another and the streetscape in general. So I can skip through this as well. You guys have in front of you the partial demolition that we need in order to do this redevelopment. The orange buildings, one of the things that Sanborn map revealed to us as we went through it, so these two guys, if they're not reading orange. Yeah. So one of the things that Sanborn revealed to us is that through the enormous changes of this site from residential to light commercial, given the rail to like lumber yards, coal yards, ironically, those two buildings seem to survive. And I think everyone was on the same page last time that it made sense to, continue that legacy with the redevelopment. And we still continue to want to do that. Buildings 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are what's slated for partial demolition here. And I had a brief descriptor of each one of those buildings in your packet. I'm happy to go through it, or I know you guys can read, so I don't want to bog you down with that. But the bulk of those 2, 3, and 4, just for quick synopsis, 2, 3, and 4 were all done when Benjamin Roberts moved in 1986. They're the ones that also changed the elevation of the two-story historic building back to something else. You know, we talked about, there was false sense of history discussion earlier, and that's kind of what happened with that one. Building 5, when this was an automotive sort of block, and it truly was an automotive block, and you saw that in that photo of the storefront that I showed earlier. If you look closely in that, you noticed that there were vehicles parked in there. It was a showroom, yeah. So 5 was a garage built to service that program. You know, the 3-story building that was the hotel originally also serviced as like tire storage and stuff. And I think you had a story or heard a story the last time that's the one where they were throwing tires down the existing stair. Ironically, the existing stair is staying and is being reused as part of this project. Amazingly enough, through all those tires throwing, that they didn't tear the stair to shreds, but it's still there, and we're going to use it. So it's a really nice stair that survived. Testament to the two buildings in general and how they've survived. So other questions, comments about the areas of partial demolition that we're looking to remove as part of the redevelopment?
I don't think so.
Okay. And again, this is just more of the same where it identifies we need to do orange and something other than orange and yellow because it doesn't really read very well on the big screen.
It's okay here.
Okay. So essentially, all it did was identify those areas that you saw on the plan previously. It shows them in elevation. And then again, from a site section, shows that 1986 edition that was warehouse for Benjamin Roberts. That's 3 and 2. And then everyone knows the building. And we looked at this the last time as well. The plan is still to have the interior court. Multitude of reasons why we like that, not least of which is an amenity for the people that are going to be there. And that we've been working with Howie Supnick to do, you know, these are some sort of reference images for that courtyard and how that might work. We want to make sure we get the right plants so it's, you know, obviously we've got 6 or 7-story buildings depending on where you are, so we want to make sure we got it right. So we thought we'd bring Howie in early on to get some reference images just to give you guys just sort of a little bit of backstory as to where we're headed with the design of that courtyard. I know, you know, ELA and the team with Howie and ourselves are still working through those. But again, it's certainly an amenity that the owner wants to capitalize on. And then we also looked at, because it is more narrow, again, we're looking at columnar trees, you know, larger bushes or multi-stem bushes that fit within the context of the space that we're asking them to perform. Questions about courtyard concept, proposed plantings, anything like that?
I don't think that's reviewable by this commission.
I don't know that it is, but it's just give you a big picture of, hey, look,
Yeah.
I'd rather have,
It's a great amenity. I mean, it is, a tall, narrow space like that is tricky
it is.
from a landscaping
Yeah,
standpoint.
yeah.
And it's just to let the commission know that, you know, we are thinking about all these nuances as it relates to scale of the building, which is really what is under your purview.
I think like Steinman Park is a perfect
Yes.
example of, you know, it can be a really nice amenity if it's done properly.
Correct, and we had that very same discussion internally as a local
Yeah.
area that fits that
Yeah.
context, yes.
I have just a quick question. I wasn't here last year. Is the courtyard publicly accessible or is it a private?
It's mostly private for the residents, yeah. Right now, we're not planning for it to be gated. There might be some fencing along the sidewalk, but
Might end up being gated.
That's what I was thinking.
I can talk to you about our issue.
yeah, we can certainly have that discussion offline. Yeah.
I mean, what we'd like to do is have it be essentially private, but give the illusion of public space, so it doesn't feel like it's it still feels as though it's part of the streetscape, but really it's meant for the residents. And that's what we're going to try to do first.
Yeah, I mean, my hope is that we can do it kind of through design, obviously, with all the windows kind of looking on the courtyard and appropriate lighting, at least, feels like, the people that should be there are there. But yeah, obviously, best intentions sometimes don't work out.
Bigger city issue than just this will resolve, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. The plans that you saw from the last time really have not changed. I think the only difference is there's one extra unit. So we went from 130 units during our initial review to 131. So, and again, these just show, these are just color coded to distinguish the different types of units and see the distribution through the floor plates. Water Street, obviously we've got, because of the grade change between Prince and Water, we've got the 7 stories at Water Street. So we've got basement, ground floor units on the left, we still have parking on the right, and then the courtyard in the middle, with other tenant amenities on the ground floor as well, bicycle parking and the
So I see
gym.
A gym,
Yeah. And I think you've got like a pet wash and all the sort of,
That's all the rage.
Gotta have that.
yes,
See,
yes.
Steve knows.
Yeah, so. And I think,
I'm being serious.
no, I know,
We all have them now. Yeah.
so.
Okay.
No, and then I think the other amenity that is a little bit different from the last time you saw it is the dog park was initially in the courtyard, and I think we've decided that there's a better use for that courtyard than that, and we've moved that to the north. So that's the other sort of change that just wanted to bring to your attention as it relates to the ground floor. First floor, again, the other change that we'll made that I want to bring to your attention as it relates to the plan is you'll see that the stair towers, or you may or may not recall, the stair towers were actually mirrored axially on the 2 Ls. They're now both facing interior to the court. So we made that change as well. That served a practical and an aesthetic purpose for us internally. So.
And this is 100% residential. There's no mixed use. There's no commercial.
That's right, all apartments. Yeah.
Okay. So this space on the first floor is lobby space.
Correct.
Okay.
Other questions before I jump to the next slide?
Go ahead.
Okay. Again, you can see in this slide how we're maintaining the block of existing structures is in the upper right. That stays the same. The difference is that 3-story, what was initially that hotel or rooming house, we have a single-story unit and then we have a 2-story unit up above because the stair exists from second to third. It was torn out from first to second. So the thought was we can sort of take advantage of the fabric that remains, and that's what gives us some sort of unique apartments beyond just the more repetitive units that occur in the rear Ls. The upper floors, we eliminated the rooftop deck. I think the last time we were here, we were talking about that as a possibility. We're going to continue to keep that terrace that overlooks Prince Street, that's down on the floor below the roof. We think that offers the same amenities, if not better, because you got a great view. I like the fact that it's on the street. I kind of like that. So let's run into elevations. So last time you were here, we talked about material in the front, we talked about massing on the front, we talked about the storefront as it relates to the 2-story piece. We still have the overbuild of the 2-story. We have simplified the materials. Essentially, it's all the same material. We're doing the corrugated siding for that front facade, the same as what we were initially anticipating using at the preliminary review. And then we still have the drive-it stucco on the left-hand side, and as you'll see as we work through the elevations, you'll see that does wrap the corner and continues down towards Water Street. The building to the north infill building to the right is a modular iron spot brick. All the windows that we're using are double hungs. We are using Sierra Pacific H3 for the building, the north infill piece. The glass piece between that navigates the north infill and the existing historic structure, we're using curtain wall for that. We are using, again, we transition, where we have the new overbuilds, we're transitioning windows. We are transitioning to the Anderson 100 series for the overbuild and the two L's to the rear. We have, like I said, the sky porch is what we called it the last time. That terrace is still shows on elevation. And I think the comments again from this board were, hey, can you simplify the materials in the front elevation? And we did, and I think the reason that the stucco wraps the corner, or the drive-it wraps the corner, is I don't want to leave an outside corner that's with that transition. So that stucco wraps all the way around. And we'll see that as we get into the renderings. We are maintaining that relief between the 3.5-story building and the overbuild. That way we keep the roof details the same, and we don't encroach on that 3.5-story hotel. So that continues to read as a standalone. What's difficult to tell, and we'll get into it right now, is what you can't really see, and I'll show you a couple of Revit models that we did just for massing purposes to help the board, is the planes, the different planes that these exist in, these different elevations. So those are, I think, probably more informative than just the elevation in this case, because you have a better understanding of what is happening. And again, you can see how we're maintaining those two structures, existing structures, and we're trying to respect and not overpower that two-story piece by pushing that overbuild as far off that elevation as we can and lightening the material so it's a lighter material. We just can't, we need the units, and I felt like this was a way to do both. Service the two-story building, not overwhelm it, push it back from that front elevation, and sort of lighten the material selections that we're using for the facade.
So this model is showing a terrace at the top, that's not there?
On the three-story or the?
On the overbuild.
Yeah, so that is that sky terrace that we're talking about.
That
is there.
That's new.
That is there, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's on the roof of the overbuild.
Yes.
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 Okay. I think when you're looking at the floor plans, I was reading that more as being like just on top of the two-story section, but it's actually elevated 3 more.
It is.
Okay.
It is. And I cheated in this so much as I didn't give you every floor plate until you got to that point. So it went from,
You skipped a couple.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was like floors 3 through 5.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. You want to carry this conversation around? We'll circle back with questions.
You can go through all of them, we can.
So we did the same approach for the backside, where we'll give you the elevation and then we'll flip to some Revit massing models just to sort of help facilitate the understanding of the project. Again, the difference here, we're still keeping the thermotreated sort of screen around the parking on the right-hand side, on the south side. We have that metal siding that continues around the very top of the structure. And then you can see the overbuild of the two-story. And then we also have that porch on the backside that is off the first floor of Prince Street that overlooks the courtyard. And that was something that you saw during the last conceptual review. So that still exists. You can see the scale figure is depicted there on the plan or in the elevation.
Yeah. It's nice that you've got kind of outdoor spaces on different levels.
And I think we're trying to appeal to both. You know, if you want an urban setting, you can go here. If you want something that's a little more park-esque, you have both. So the other piece that the added, we tried to break down, given that we have we've simplified the material on the backside, but we did try to break down the scale of that building so that, and we're doing that through changing color and a water table. So that's what you'll see. The darker gray on the left-hand side is in reference to scaling down that facade from the Water Street side. Again, all these windows on the back side are the Anderson 100 series double hung, combination of single and mulled units. So this is massing as it relates to the rest of the block. And what seems appropriate, it feels appropriate given the PCAD down at the southern end of what was the old hardware store at one point, or the hardware warehouse. It seems to be in context with the rest of the block. I think the other piece of the puzzle, as always, is it's not only the height, but it's also the mass of the footprint. The parking garage across the street is a really good example. That has a tiny, it's only 3 stories, but it has a massive, massive footprint. So.
Because of the change in grade from Prince Street to Water Street, I mean, the buildings are taller on Water Street.
Correct.
It's not,
Correct. So as we work through this presentation, you'll see that I've sort of given you like an aerial view that you really won't experience as a pedestrian. And then as we go through this, I've added some Revit modeling views of streetscape, what you would experience as a pedestrian, so we can.
Yeah, you're going to keep going.
Yep, so. Again, this just delineates all the courtyard elevations. This is courtyard elevation looking north. You can see how the stair tower is an element that helps break down that overall facade. The material of the stair tower would be the corrugated metal, which would follow through to grade. And then you can see how the relationship of Prince Street and Water Street and that change in elevation in here as well. Again, trying to capture that north elevation as you're looking from the south north. Again, you get to see the context of the building in the fabric of the block. Again, doing the due diligence, this is the other side of the courtyard. Oh, I'm sorry, this is actually between
the north side.
the north side, yep.
So the dark
north
color
alley.
on the left-hand side,
That's brick.
that wraps around from the.
Correct.
Okay.
It will turn the corner and kill into, there's a small offset there where you, right?
So on
Right
the
there.
Water Street side, you had the darker material.
The darker material is just changing color, just to be clear, that's
It's just ephes. It's
Yes.
just darker ephes.
Correct.
See it, that does not wrap around the north side.
So we had talked about that internally, and I think we ultimately decided that we could do that.
We would wrap it in.
We would wrap it around because I think it carries that through.
Yeah.
We had that discussion today.
Like changing materials in an outside corner.
Is deadly.
Yeah, it's bad.
And I think, truth be told, I think we probably should have had this slide updated beyond where we are. So we did have that discussion today, and I concur. You can see here in this slide, you can see
There
it.
it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I agree.
Yeah, just give the building a solid base.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah, you keep flipping through.
So, other direction, lower perspective in that perspective drawing, in that Revit massing. Open parking deck is on the south side. There is that side that faces south is just open deck. On the courtyard side and on the Water Street side, we'll use that thermotreated screen. And here they are. So the iron spot is the north infill building. Thermotreated screen, wood, we talked about. The red is representational of what's existing. We have the stucco ephes, primary color. We also have the darker color if you're interested in seeing that. The windows are all in that dark bronze. It's almost black. And the idea is we have PTAC units which are unavoidable to hit where we need to be. Those will also be dark, so I think it helps tie, everyone's searching for a way to handle PTAC units successfully. There's so many options to look
It
at.
looks like you've got the grills there directly under the windows.
So I have, in the double hungs, I have a little bit of space because I need to flash, otherwise you'd have a really awkward detail where the sill meets that PTAC sleeve, but yes. So, and they do align with the width of that double hung. So we were able to size the double hungs. The Anderson 100 does give us the ability to size at 1/8 inch, I think 1/8 or 1/4 inch increments, and there's no change in cost to the project. So we wanted to get that right.
Okay. So does that explain the change from Sierra Pacific to Anderson?
Partially.
Why you have different window manufacturers?
Yeah, that's part of the reason.
Okay.
Because you'll notice on the front elevation, we tried very hard the developer was committed to keeping the front elevation as clean as possible, so we have as bare minimum of PTACs. I think there's 6 maybe on the front, we can go back and count them, but there are none in the brick.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, we were trying to keep it off the planes, like closest to the sidewalk.
Yeah.
so this is just a quick recap of what we were talking about before. Top left, you'll see the brick, that iron spot brick. We are using some detailing, we are doing some corbelling and a little bit of detailing. A stripped down version of just how they would have treated that facade traditionally, but a much more modern and a little cleaner version, which I think was the compromise that Ben and I reached, that I think it makes reference to how buildings were constructed in Lancaster, but it feels a little bit cleaner and a little bit newer. And again, you can see the detailing, what we're proposing for the infill panels below the windows. Metal siding we talked about as well, the mulled double hungs in some locations. We talked about the thermo-treated screen for the parking deck or the parking garage at the ground floor. And then the rest of that is the stucco, and we do have that water table that we made reference to earlier to give the building a heavier base with a darker color and wrapping that water table around. So just to give you context, Anderson 100, if you're familiar with Stadium Row, that's what's there. The Sierra Pacific window that we're proposing is that's a historic project in Roanoke. It's the John Patrick.
Yorktown.
Oh, it almost does.
It does, doesn't it? So we updated the renderings we went from the hand sketch the schematic sketch that we had the last time. We gave a more photorealistic take on what this might be. And while the units along on the 2-story piece are not commercial, they still read as commercial, and it still gives, the option is there if someone wants to do a live-work unit in one of those. So we haven't ruled that out, but they are residential first and foremost, but we keep the commercial feel for the building, and we give people that option, I think, which is, the best of both worlds. You can see the modular brick in that north infill, how it does wrap that corner, and you can see how it picks up the ephes and the metal panel beyond. We have the curtain wall with spandrel panels that navigates the vocabulary between the modular brick and the existing 2-story. And then you can see, in this perspective, you can only get a sense of really that first overbuild that's there. You don't really see the sky terrace you can see there's an allusion to that sky terrace at the very top. I think the Revit sort of massing models gave you a better sense overall. And then Water Street. This is, again, working with the metal panel at the upper level. We talked about that, the change in eaves color on that northern piece. It does help with the base. And we start to give some reference to what that courtyard entry might be, as well as the screening for the parking. So as you walk down Water Street, it's not like you're going to be looking, we want to screen that parking so it's not like you're walking past the parking garage. And I think it makes for an inviting entrance, not only for vehicles, but for anybody that's parking on the Water Street garage or just entering through that courtyard space off of Water Street. Because it does really have 2 primary entrances. You're either going to come through the courtyard at Water or you come from Prince Street. It sort of has 2 primary elevations. So So we have, like I said, we have these which are sort of 6-foot perspectives of how you might experience that as a pedestrian on Prince Street. So we can just flip through these quickly. Walking north, the first one obviously was walking south. And then Water Street. Yeah, so I'm happy to go back through as much of this as you'd like. If there's any images you want to revisit, I'm happy to go back and revisit those with you.
You just want to jump back to the front facade rendering, just a couple slides back, we could have that up then. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I think that's fine. Anybody have any comments on the presentation?
Yeah, I think it's a definite improvement from the presentation we saw last year by simplifying the facade. I think it was kind of a jumble of too many different materials the first time we saw it.
That came through, and we took that to heart. You were clear, and I think it was spot on.
Anybody have any concerns with the demo portion? I don't think we had any issues with that previously.
I don't have any issues with the demo. I like the north tower. I like that design on the facade.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's obviously taller than anything else on the block, but it's not.
Not significantly
it's not
so.
excessively
No.
scale, yeah. Because we do have quite a variety of building heights on the block.
For sure.
And then you've got Ruoff Tower, across the street, so.
Any questions or comments from the public? I need to just ask. Everybody else is silent. Any concerns, or somebody would like to make a motion? We have two motions, one for demolition, then one for new construction. You're close. You're close.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend that City Council approve a certificate of appropriateness for the proposed demolition of 5 front and rear building sections, including the rear of CMU additions and a recessed Prince Street commercial entryway to allow new infill construction at the site at 232 North Prince Street. The work meets the Secretary of Interior Standards 1 and 2.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All right, motion carries. John, would you like to make a new construction motion?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I recommend the City Council approve a certificate of appropriateness for the proposed new construction of a 6 to 7 story residential structure at 232 North Prince Street, extending west to North Water Street per the submitted architectural plans and proposed building materials. And this work meets the Secretary of Interior Standards number 9 and the design standards of the city.
All right, thank you. Is there a second? Second, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, motion carries as well. Thank you.
Because yours
Thank you.
involves
Thank you.
demolition, albeit not terribly historic, it has to start at the committee, City Council committee meeting, which is May 6th, and I'll send you the language.
Okay.
Notification.
It's a great project. Thank you.
Thank you, members.
Before we move to number 5, Steve is presenting and I need to recuse myself, so I am going to recommend that Danielle be interim chair for one item. Is there a second to my motion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, so Danielle will run with this one. Steve, you're gonna set up, and I'm gonna shut up.
Okay, that's the updated one, Suzanne. Okay, I'm Stephen Funk from Murata Main Architects, presenting for Lancaster County Housing and Redevelopment Authorities. The Redevelopment Authority is proposing to build a low-barrier overnight shelter in the basement of Otterbein United Methodist Church. Suzanne, if you could go to the next slide. It's located on the church is located on the corner of, I don't know how well you can see it. It's located on the corner of Queen Street and East Clay Street. Next slide. There's some photographs. The northwest corner of the existing church there is in the upper left-hand corner. That church was built in 1925. It's primarily of granite. There were subsequent additions through the 1950s that took the church almost to I guess that's Christian Street. Yes, North Christian Street. The next two images going to the right are, stay there, are the south side, south and east side of the church. The Clay Street facades are rendered in the kind of Gothic style in granite, but the rear portions of the buildings that are not facing public street are in a more utilitarian mid-century, just simple red brick. One nice feature about the building is, though, that every single window is a stained glass window, is a leaded glass window, which is kind of rare in a building of that era. The other images are of the neighborhood, with the exception of the house that's on the corner of North Christian and East Clay Street. All the other buildings on that block on Christian Street are garages. There's a carriage house there at the rear of 700 North Duke Street. There's an apartment building and parking lots. But primarily, the character of the neighborhood is backyards and parking lots. Next slide, please. Okay. There's a site plan that shows the new addition. The majority of the work to provide for the shelter is on the interior of the building. The only visible intervention on the exterior will be a new elevator shaft that will connect the basement to the second floor. Kind of there in the center of the drawing, the dark gray rectangle is the elevator. There will be a new handicapped accessible entrance, so we're showing a ramp there going up to the existing entrance doors. The next slide shows the shelter in the basement. As I said, this is a low barrier overnight shelter. It'll be providing sleeping accommodations as well as restrooms and showers for 80 people. And then the next slide is the first floor. Really, the only change to the first floor is at the entrance. You can see in the upper portion of the screen is the new elevator that'll be next to the main entrance from the rear of the church. These are the elevations, the south elevation and the east elevation. Then next slide. I brought along samples of a brick that closely matches the existing brick, which is the image at the top of the page. Suzanne's review was that we should not match the brick exactly, that there should be some differentiation between the existing building and the new construction so as not to confuse the history of the building. So what we're proposing is
a brick of the same clay body. So it'll basically be the same brick color, but it will be a flashed. So there will be a little bit more color variation in the brick. The existing brick is fairly consistent in its coloring. The new brick will be slightly flashed, so there will be some color variation. We would like to maintain the coursing to match the coursing of the building, which is a common bond. It's a header course. It's every sixth course is a header course. We would like to match that, but we will be having a slightly different brick from the original. And then the last slide is just a 3D rendering of that, looking at the southeast corner of the new elevator tower. So.
And am I correct that the only new thing that you're adding to the building is the elevator tower?
Correct, yeah. Also, the roof coping, the gutters and downspouts will be copper to match the existing. All the roof accessories, all the roof trim on the building is copper, so we will be providing new copper. And the railing on the ramp will be painted steel. The design loosely matches the design of the rails on the Queen Street side of the building at the main church.
Very good. I think that it's a complementary to the building. Does anybody else have anything else? I don't know if there's anybody here. Does anybody want to make a motion then to approve the new construction?
Mr. Chairman, I'll recommend that the City Council approve a certificate of appropriateness for proposed new construction on a church building located at 20 East Clay Street. Construct a new brick-faced elevator shaft on the rear south elevation visible from North Christian Street per the submitted architectural plans. This work meets the Secretary of Interior standards, numbers 9 and 10.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Because they're a recommending body. So it has to go to city council, which is next week, but on Wednesday. And I'll
Okay.
let you know, that, the redevelopment authority could go to that.
Okay, they probably won't, but.
All right, we have one more thing on the agenda, a conceptual discussion. Thank you for your patience tonight. Yeah. That's what we all want to do. Correct.
Okay. Here to talk about 913 Leland Avenue. Thank you for having me. I'm representing Lancaster Lebanon Habitat for Humanity. And we are looking at development of what I would call abandoned parking lot into 8 units of affordable housing. So the site's represented here in roughly west on the screen behind me. Hopefully you
We can see it pretty well. Yeah.
It's in a mixed use district. It's kind of an interesting site. We're next to the Prima Theater building, which is a 4-story office structure, mostly brick. But we're also bounded on the north and east side by some of the more stately homes on Marriott Avenue and West End. then to the south side, by the Clock Tower Apartments, again, characterized by a lot of brick construction, multi-story, four-story, three-dimensional image of the site, which we can come back and reference. Again, a little more detail on the site. The other thing that's interesting with the site is there is a common alley that bounds the site on the east and north side. And that is the current access to the parking lot for Pocket Books, which is on the southwest corner of Eaton Avenue, Westland Avenue. And there's also another live work structure just to the north of that. And then there are also some of the homes on Merritt Avenue that use that common alley for their carriage houses. Common alley actually stops at the west property boundary. Well, let me put it this way. It's no longer usable at the west property boundary of our site. It turns into a vegetated, which just kind of shake the plains with it. But you can't circulate through it. So the way the parking lot's laid out now, there is an egress that comes out on the west end of that property.
Is it a paved alley, or is it's just overgrown over the years?
It's paved up until the west side of our property.
Okay,
And then it turns to a medical
okay,
alleyway.
interesting.
This is a stitched elevation, photo elevation of the site. 913 Wheatland, dog unit there, just for reference. You can see the Prima Theater, it's about a story and a half, nearly two-story fly space where that theater is immediately to the west side of our property. And then Pocket Books is the other neighbor on Wheatland Avenue. This is just a view looking down Wheatland Avenue. This is the far side of Prima Theater. This is the clock tower. This is the element or the wing of the clock tower that is immediately across the street from our site. And then further down the street. These, just for reference, are some of the homes along there. So the way we chose to develop the site is we actually got some variances a few months ago, but to move the building a little closer to Wheatland Avenue. But we didn't want to have it on the 5-foot setback, so we did a variance for that. So we're back about 17 feet off Wheatland Avenue. But because of the way the site slopes from Wheatland Avenue up to the back end of the site, in order for us to have habitable units on the first floor, we chose to have the access to the building or to the units from the north side. It also enabled us to pull the structure away from the homes along Marion Avenue, which was important to neighbors. We got a few neighborhood meetings, that was something that they're pretty happy about. We are choosing to use the common alley as our ingress and egress for the site. So you can see the arrow coming up Wheatland Avenue is actually the common alley. And then the turns left on the common alley, and then the egress is actually on our site. The parking spaces that are used are off of that as well, and we're trying to maintain a green space as well that can be used for playground equipment, gardens, etc. The floor plans are a little unique. What we're proposing is the first story is actually at-grade unit, so it's a single-story unit. And the entrances are off the north side, facing the green space and the parking. And so the living and dining spaces, or the living spaces face north, and the bedrooms face south. So on the first floor, you have 2 one-bedroom units and 2 two-bedroom units. For character purposes and also for convenience of guests, we do have an access point along Wheatland Avenue as well. And then the second floor unit is actually a two-story unit, so it's a walk-up. There's a stair if you go back to the first floor. It cuts in between the units 1 and 2 and units 3 and 4. There's a walk-up stair to the second floor unit, which is only two-story. So then those two units are 3 and 4 bedroom units. And on the north side, those units will have a deck. Again, we're trying to pare that, the building mass down a little bit away from the area that has the units. That's the third floor. There is a basement that's accessed from the west side of the egress alley. We'll have some resident storage and some mechanical on the basement.
See, there's no elevator in this building?
There is not.
Okay.
From the exterior side, what we're trying to do is actually express the individuality of the units. These are owner-occupied units, and want to give the owners a sense of their own expression on the outside of the building. So we didn't want it to look like just one big massive building. So we broke it down some gable elements. There is a floor line change between units 2 and 3 as you head east on Weaver Avenue. So you see that sort of there in the elevation. If you look at the north elevation on the backside, there's a covering over the stair that leads up that also serves as a break between the outdoor spaces that are owned by the units. And we're also choosing to go a little bit more, like, we're trying to stick with some residential forms, but stay a little bit more on the contemporary side. So we have a brick on the first story, and we're switching the siding above. So the north elevation, this is the parking side elevation. This is a view, so you see the patios at the first floor units that kind of protect those extra uses and give them a little bit of space there. And then the decks from the second, third floor units, both looking at green space. This is a view of Wheatland Avenue, and I'm looking a little bit to the west. Again, because of the grade change from Wheatland Avenue up to that first floor, we do have to construct some stairs, so we're choosing to do that in a little bit more formal way and to make those stairs seem a little less connected to the street and a little more private.
And it references a little bit the kind of the houses on Marion Avenue, kind of more formal, kind of, I don't want to say grand stairs, but it's a more, yeah. I'm sorry, yeah, this is just the view.
I would consider this the front of the building?
This is the front, this is the Wheatland Avenue facing side.
And those doors are functional?
Those doors provide access, and it's really for convenience. If they have a second vehicle, they have to park on Wheatland Avenue, or they have a guest that come to that door.
So there's basically 2 doors to go into each unit? I saw the one door.
Yeah, they have a front door and a back door, so it kind of goes into a rear hallway.
So shared hall and.
Okay, I got it.
I think that's a really nice solution, rather than just completely turning your back to the street. It's a nice way to address the neighborhood by providing that door. Because honestly, I think the rear of the building is really a more successful facade than the front of the building. Because the front of the building with the decks and the open stairs does have the feel more of a kind of suburban development. But this
I don't think in our packet, I don't think we got these renderings, did we? Because we just got the two-dimensional, and when I first saw them, I was like, all right, I don't know about this. But the 3D rendering really helps to explain your thinking, and,
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Did you have is this your last slide then? Okay. It's kind of an interesting spot where you have weird context, right? Just disparate buildings that you don't necessarily want to draw from. So providing a solution that works for the broader neighborhood, I think, makes a lot of sense.
Can you talk to me about the brick? Because the brick here appears lighter in the pictures, renderings than the mutual. The buildings across the street, the buildings down are red brick versus this seems to be.
Yeah, we do, I didn't pull any materials, but yeah, it would be a little bit more on the burgundy side of that brick.
Well, this looks more like kind of like a salmon pink brick, and then the bookshop in the corner is a yellow brick.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's yellow in the neighborhood too.
Yeah, so.
Our intent is to more homes, but more monolithic.
And is that, maybe you said this, so do you have, is the light gray an EFIS and then the dark gray like a panel, hardy panel, or you're not, I mean, if you're not sure yet, but.
No, we're working through the materials. Currently, what's shown on the gable mass is supposed to be a horizontal siding.
Okay.
And then what's in between, we're looking at either panel material or vertical siding.
Okay.
Ooh, don't say board and batten.
He did say board and batten.
Honestly, if that's a standing seam roof over the porches, might be interesting to see if that just went right up the wall.
Or, yeah, if you're using a hardy panel siding, you can use a hardy panel as the gray, or, yeah.
I do like the idea of the standing seam right now.
I think it's nice because it references some of the houses on Marietta Avenue without duplicating them. Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, kind of the larger neighborhood. Yeah, it is kind of a funny little block where you've got these big industrial buildings.
So the design decision for the corner window, is that the bedroom up there? That,
It is a bedroom, yeah.
Okay.
It just seemed too stagnant without it.
okay. Yeah, I'm not opposed to it, I was just kind of curious.
It's gonna be a tricky detail.
It probably isn't going to come off up there.
No, but there's a pattern for it in the neighborhood. The houses on Northwest End Avenue in the first block right there have a lot of rounded windows with turrets and such.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's kind of a minimalist version of that.
Yeah, and actually, easier to pay it out.
Yeah, it may not look as good.
Can I ask, with Habitat, usually the owner or the buyer has to put in sweat equity. Are they going to help build these?
They are looking
The tier?
we're looking at a couple different models. We're looking at, a lot of times what we're doing now, for Habitat, they're using contractor labor to get the envelope constructed. So the way these are structured, if you look at the floor plans, they're actually structured such that we get the floor plates completely constructed without building them into the walls. So that volunteers can construct into the walls.
Okay.
That's nice.
Hey, how did the neighborhood like it? How did the neighborhood like it?
Yeah, I live in that neighborhood and I wasn't aware of any meetings. I live at 300 Northwest.
Yeah, I know we had 2 meetings because the clock tower folks missed, most of them missed the first, actually, they missed the first one. Interestingly, the neighbors on Marietta Avenue are really in favor of the project. They like the design. A lot of the, I don't want to say a lot of them, but there were some in favor of it on the clock tower side. So we're getting some favorable responses. We're also getting a lot of pushback. The pushback comes from people who like the big trees and like the parking lot that's still out here. So
Don't change anything.
Yeah.
Those people.
Yeah, I heard from somebody that lives on Marietta. She was asking if I had seen the design, and she was telling me how much she liked it, so.
Anybody else have any comments that would benefit them coming back? No? All right, yeah, I think. Do you have any other specific questions for us that would be helpful coming back? I mean, I think you have a good design and presentation here.
Yeah, thank you. I don't think it's time.
Okay. All right, well, that's great. I appreciate you coming to the conceptual discussion and for waiting an hour.
I just found out a little earlier that construction is probably pushed out end of next year possibly, or 2026. So when we get appropriate time to come back. For recommendation.
So I assume
It's up to you.
there's no zoning issues, or I'm assuming.
No, they're behind us.
Okay. And the historical, that's a good question. Suzanne, do our well, we haven't made a recommendation.
We haven't done it
No,
yet.
we haven't, but once we make a recommendation, what's the expiration date on that recommendation?
You're not making your
We're not, no, but I'm saying if we,
But if he came back next month, let's say, and he did do some breaking,
Your recommendation, if city council approves it, lasts forever, assuming the design.
doesn't change. Okay.
oh, okay.
That's a question.
Okay,
Ask.
I just know like building permits expire,
Right.
zoning variances expire, I think probably land development approval expires if, the project is delayed for some reason, but ours, okay.
We're good.
Varieties on the side, can be all this.
Yeah.
I guess I do have a question in that regard. If they choose to go to vinyl siding, is there any objection to that?
No, we've done it before. Maybe not the preference, but we have done it before. Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, I like the dark color of, in your rendering, and vinyl siding is now available in those kind of darker colors. So,
Yeah, it's possible.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Anything else? Any other business? We don't need to assign anybody?
Well, Steve has to go for demolition, has to go to, he doesn't. If Water Street withdraws, I'll let you know, but if they
Okay.
don't go to council, I'll need somebody.
Okay.
May, for the committee meeting.
Okay.
You said it's next Wednesday?
North Prince Street has to go to committee because of the demolition. Yes.
All right, well, let us know if they withdraw. It sounded like they were going to withdraw. I know, maybe there's an argument going on right now. All right, then, unless anybody's opposed, I recommend that we adjourn. Adjourn at 7:40.